Right, okay, should be streaming on Facebook and YouTube now. Got old Piers here too. Yeah, going to be 5 minutes, 6 minutes, people, 6 minutes to the top of the show. If you're watching an archive version, you might want to fast forward just a few minutes. Otherwise, yeah, let's have a good one. Okay, all right. St. George's Day, yeah. Hey, happy St. George's Day. Do-do-do-do-do. St. George's Day without Brexit, guess what? couple of minutes, people. Well, one actually. Yeah. Hey, Piers. Hello, mate.
Hi.
Hey, good. Can hear you. Good. Oh no, hold on a sec. Oh no, I've just lost all my news tabs. Oh, blimey. Hold on a sec. I got 2 minutes, people. 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Sorry, Piers. Yeah. Oh, hold on. Oh, blimey, what a pain. I do apologise, folks. It's going to be about another 2-3 minutes. Yeah, just lost all my news tabs. Would you believe it? Then again, I could just, I suppose, run through the news for anything over the last couple of years, and basically exactly the same. Sorry, folks. Just 30 seconds. Pain. You still there, Piers? Are you giving up, mate? Giving up?
No, I'm still here.
Good man. Good on you. Thank you. 20 seconds. Do-do-do-do. Right, that's enough of that. Okay. Hey folks, good evening, good people. Welcome to the Daily Brexit, Daily something. Holding democracy to account, fighting for self-determination and exposing plutocracy. I'm Olly Connelly, thanks for turning up. And now, Tories on toast. Are we about to witness a Tory train crash? Will Labour get equally trashed? And does anyone have any more popcorn? Piers Garnham's here, pondering karma with me. YouTube, call in on whatever the number is at the top of the post. I'll see you in the comments. You can call in on Discord too, gov.ly/rant. And please support the show, paypal.me/Brexit. Thank you. Share the thing, like the page, all that. Let folks know we're talking, we're thinking, we're watching. We are active. Don't know what for. Hey Garnham, are you there, mate? Good man. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good.
Oh, good.
I got kept late a bit at work, but managed to fight my way through the traffic. The one problem with driving in London in rush hour is all the Uber drivers. You know, as much as I love Uber and how it's transformed London in terms of being able to get a cab at very short notice at any time of day. They are the world's slowest drivers, and their road awareness is poor. So it's almost like they're having a competition to see who can drive the slowest. But so it's very frustrating. But there we go.
Is Uber a good thing or a bad thing?
I think it's a mixture of both. I mean, the black cabs were becoming a bit of a monopoly, and as a result, were only choosing to drive the hours that they wanted to drive, which was never after midnight, and trying to get a black cab after midnight in central London after a night on the lash, was quite difficult. So, and then you'd have to rely on, dodgy minicab firms. But now you can literally just, hail an Uber at any time of day. I think there's 40,000 plus of them on the roads now. So they have added a great, it's made traveling around London late in the small hours a lot easier. But a lot of them are fairly green when it comes to knowing the roads and understanding how the traffic works and what lane you're supposed to pull into, and it gets a bit frustrating, and they go over around.
Sounds a bit like the government running the country.
Yes, exactly. Yes, there's a sort of an analogy to be drawn with the pace that Uber drivers drive at, and politics in the UK at the moment, for sure. Everything at snail's pace.
Yeah, no, completely. All right, let's have a look and see what they're on about at the moment. All that lot. And it is St. George's Day. And people are criticising Theresa May for flying the flag, the St. George's Day tribute at number 10. Basically, the premise being that she would rather fly the EU flag, presumably. Theresa May's been mocked for flying the St. George's Cross outside Downing Street, with Brexiteers saying they are surprised not to see the EU flag up instead. Ex-UKIP MEP Patrick O'Flynn told Theresa May to be honest and just fly the EU circle of stars after the Tory leader posted a video on Twitter to mark St. George's Day today. He tweeted, May should be honest and just fly the... Yeah, you just said that. Okay. His furious tweet comes after the Prime Minister posted to her 830,000 followers. The St. George's Cross flies above Downing Street today to mark the feast of England's patron saint. My warmest wishes to all celebrating St. George. I tell you, she is such a hypocritical, duplicitous girl. Oh, man, she is the most Vichy Prime Minister, is she not, Mr. Garnham? Unbelievable.
Oh, she's a twisted harridan, a witch and a hag. No, can't stand the woman.
Okay, all right. Well, that one out of the way. Notre Dame was no accident. Why France believes Paris Cathedral blaze was Europe's 9/11. A growing number of French nationalists, or just people, I imagine, are questioning the official line on the causes of the Notre Dame Cathedral fire, with some social media commentators dubbing the disaster Europe's 9/11. A bit different to 9/11, I'd have thought. But possibly another inside job? I don't know. The iconic landmark was consumed by flames last Monday night in a massive blaze, which destroyed its wooden roof and spire and sparked an outpouring of goodwill across the globe. Firefighters managed to save the cathedral's main bell towers and outer walls from collapse before bringing the fire under control. So the bottom line, yeah, is that there's been something like 850 fires of churches and Christian buildings throughout France over the course of the last 12 months. And so a lot of people, and arson, yeah, basically. From who? Oh, very, very questionable, yeah. But the bottom line is this actually some kind of a hate crime perpetrated by, I don't know, a different faith? Who knows? But there are some interesting images online. And guess what? The French people, they probably are beginning to realize that their country is being run by people like Jean-Claude Juncker, who is a great acolyte of people like Coudenhove Kalergi, whose stated aim it was to drown European cultures in foreign alien cultures to basically subsume the masses and divide and rule them, and so on and so forth. And so anyway, yeah, people maybe are beginning to wake up a little bit. Who knows? I don't know. You got any take on that, Piers?
Well, I mean, it as you've suggested, there's a lot of churches on fire. It's not just Notre Dame. There's a lot of mosques on fire. At the what was it? The El Asak mosque was on fire on the Temple Mount at exactly the same time as the fire at Notre Dame.
Are there many mosques on fire? I don't know. I know that there's been a lot of churches on fire.
One of the most important mosques, top 5 mosques in the world, the El Asak Mosque on the Temple on the Mount in Jerusalem, was engulfed in flames as well. At
the same time. Yeah, that's right. That's correct.
Yeah, we don't hear about that in the press. We only hear about Notre Dame Cathedral.
That's right.
So it seems that my personal take is on it is that Deep State are trying to start some kind of religious war in order to try and deflect from ultimately what's coming stateside. I think now that the Mueller investigation is over and has been proven a sham, the Trump administration are now going to start, pulling their cards and showing, I think the indictments that are the long list of indictments that have been waiting to be released in the States are going to start coming out now, and we're going to. I think the craziness in America right now politically is largely due to the fear from the Democratic Unionists and the Clinton party,
the globalists.
I think a lot of these fires and these terrorist attacks are probably deep state orientated or something along those lines in order to try and facilitate creating great animosity between faiths. And all I can say is that we must rise above it. We must find the common ground, and we must not let our faith-based belief systems dictate how we interact with each other.
I'll tell you what, Piers. I'll tell you somebody who is definitely trying to start a religious war, and that's IS, Islamic State, or whatever they want to call themselves, claims Sri Lanka blasts as government says probe making progress. Let me just, you'll understand why I say this, Piers, to if you don't mind my brief interjection here. Islamic State claimed responsibility on Tuesday for Easter bombings in Sri Lanka that killed 321 people. Coordinated attacks on churches and hotels that officials said were believed to be in retaliation for attacks on mosques in New Zealand. The claim issued through the group's AMAC news agency. I didn't know that they had a news agency, unless it was the CIA. Came shortly after Sri Lanka said two domestic Islamist groups with suspected links to foreign militants were believed to have been behind the attacks at 3 churches and 4 hotels that also wounded up to about 500 people. 3 sources with direct knowledge of the matter told Reuters that Sri Lankan intelligence officials had been warned hours earlier by India that attacks by Islamists were imminent. It was not clear what action, if any, was taken. I think that since this report today, none was taken from what I've heard. Sri Lanka's Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe told a news conference investigators were making progress in identifying the perpetrators. We will be following up on IS claims. We believe there may be some links. Well, we do know whether the IS claim is true or not, that there were a shed load, nearly 100 detonators found, apart from the ones that were actually used. There were something like 85 found at a bus station and stuff like that. So some serious kit. As opposed to, for example, if this is in retaliation for what happened in Christchurch, it was one guy, one nutter, who clearly decided that he was more important than whoever he was trying to kill or whatever. In the case of this, what happened in Sri Lanka, Piers, is coordinated by the looks of it and so there does appear to be a war going on. Yeah, sure, there's maybe nutters like that bloke that ran into a few people outside a mosque in Finsbury Park or whatever, that Welsh guy. But these are very isolated cases with individual nutters as opposed to groups of nutters who seem to be very much behind a dogmatic faith, an extreme of the faith, and not the norm. I would certainly hope, and I'd like to know, and I'd like to hear more debate about this within the Muslim community. I think would be very useful, and amongst all of our shared community, because we want to presumably be safe, no? And I don't know if we're allowed to have that BBC, that debate, government and so on, without being called right-wing or something. But Piers, it does seem to me that whereas we have some isolated cases of individuals who are maybe nutters, who are, I don't know, retaliating for the attacks on the West, things like Manchester, I don't know, truck drivers driving into Christmas parties and all that. The sort of the rape escalation that's gone on in Europe and places like Sweden has gone through the roof. Then again, that's in retaliation for the kind of idiocy that we've seen from, or the genocide that we've seen from people like Tony Blair, which is the divide rule that you're kind of talking about. But it does seem now that we have a few idiots, if you like, that are retaliating on the, if you like, the Western side. But there is a concerted effort. There is a political structure behind these bombings that we saw, for example, in Sri Lanka. A lot of people involved in this kind of an attack.
Yes, no, certainly. It is all a bit strange, and does seem to be some sort of orchestrated distraction And they do seem to be trying to ramp up animosity between communities and faiths and cultures and all the rest of it. I mean, the New Zealand...
Do you not think that there's a disparity, though, between, if you like, the two sides of these idiots, of these bastards who are killing people? I don't care, what side they're on. If you're killing people, it's out of order. But there does seem to be, on the one hand, if you like, the Western side, it seems to be a few loose nutters, whereas on the other side, it seems to be more ideological, and that is an issue that we do not address at our peril now. And it could be, for example, a reason. It could be that's what happened in Notre Dame, that it was set off in the way that a lot of other fires apparently have been set off in fire by some kind of religious nutter.
Yeah. I mean, I obviously, madrasas are popping up all over Europe, sponsored by various people in the Middle East, whether it be the Qataris or the Saudi Arabians or whoever.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of these religious schools are teaching a very extreme version of Islam.
This Wahhabism, Salafism.
I'm just saying that there is a good degree of radicalization going on, and that's being paid for in schools, in religious schools that are being set up and paid for by, regimes like the Saudi Arabian regime, which is very hardcore Sharia, and it is a problem, and our government does very little about it. I mean, we have Sharia courts in the UK now. Personally, I think that's absurd. Everybody should be under the same rule of law. No religious law should usurp the law of the land. It's a problem, but we have, as you've suggested, bombed the crap out of many of their countries and killed lots of their relatives.
Hold on a sec. I didn't do that. Piers, mate, ISIS you and I never did that. I don't think. I don't think that you or I ever did that, Piers. It was done in our. Just to correct you there, if you don't mind my saying, I don't think that you and I ever, in any way at all, subscribed to what Tony Blair did, and would like to see him tried for war crimes, for genocide, for crimes against humanity, and to put right those things. But two wrongs don't make a right. Sorry, carry on, please.
Sorry, I can't. Doing it on my phone is a bit difficult because I can't really hear very well. But no, the rally that took place in London prior to 2003, us going back into Iraq, what was probably one of the biggest rallies demonstrations that's ever taken place in London. I mean, it sort of makes the rallies that have taken place pro or against Brexit, pale into insignificance. I mean, the number of people that actually marched into London and protested against us going back into Iraq in 2003 was right. Huge. I mean,
I was there.
2 million people, and yet they completely ignored the will of the people, and Blair just did as he did. So we are, most of us never wanted to go back into Iraq. Most of us, David Kelly was very, his death is very suspect, as we've discussed on this show before. There's good reason for a large contingent of the Islamic community to hate the West, and we've caused that for not because the general populace want it, but because our governments and their agendas have wanted it. And right. Yes, I mean, I personally believe that ISIS, which is the name of an Egyptian goddess, is set up by the CIA, and it's like their arm of the deep state that deliberately stir up and cause unrest in certain countries. It's designed to, they co-fund these madrasas, they co-fund the radicalization of these people. Then they provide them with the arms, they provide them with the training. And then they provide them with the agenda, and it's war is a perpetual thing that needs to be in terms of the military-industrial complex has to be maintained. So my personal view is that the ISIS, as it's been, it used to be Al Qaeda, it used to be all sorts of different names. Now it's ISIS, but it's all basically a CIA. I think.
ISIS was born of Al Qaeda, and Al Qaeda is Arabic for the list, is what it means. And it was a CIA list of operatives, including a guy called Tim Osman, who was also known as Osama bin Laden, who was trained by the CIA, for example. And ISIS was basically born of that and has been funded by Saudi Arabia since then, who also funded the Clinton campaign. as well, which is nice. So anyway, sorry, the Clinton Foundation. What's the difference? Breitbart has a good story. UK Archbishop calls for recognition of anti-Christianism after Sri Lanka attacks. This, of course, happened over Easter. I don't normally get quite so much into the migration side of things. I'm more interested in the Brexit thing, generally speaking. Nonetheless, I am obviously very interested in what affects us considerably. And after Easter, I think we're all extraordinarily disgusted now. The Coptic Archbishop of London has called for acknowledgement that anti-Christianism is as real a phenomenon as anti-Semitism and Islamophobia, following the horrific Easter massacre of Sri Lankan Christians. It is time for us all to stand together and recognize anti-Christianism as much a real phenomenon and epidemic as anti-Semitism and Islamophobia, and deal with it as such, wrote Archbishop Angelos in a tweet Monday. The Coptic Archbishop of London. Only when we consider an attack on any of us as one on all of us can we go some way towards healing our world, he added. The head of the Coptic Church in the UK launched his appeal after Islamic terrorists slaughtered over 300 people in coordinated suicide. 321, apparently, so far. Yeah. Okay, right. Let's change tack to something maybe a little bit easier to stomach. Unbelievable. Brexit. Brexit. Theresa May sets deadline for talks with Labour after pressure from Cabinet. I'm just giving you a bit of an idea on what they're spinning today. And then you can have your take out from it. Theresa May has effectively set a deadline for talks with Labour by telling her cabinet that she wants to bring Brexit legislation into the Commons as soon as possible. In other words, she wants to bring that terrible deal, what the EU call a treaty, a deal for vassalage. She wants to bring that back and get it passed. But anyway, meanwhile, more importantly, according to Express, Brussels kills off Brexit plea. EU mocks desperate May and rejects fresh backstop talks. Let's listen to this detestable creature, Juncker. He who made his career as PM of Luxembourg, setting up tax havens for the likes of Google, who then pay bugger all tax in the UK, and you and I have to pay the tax for them instead. Cheers, mate. This is him today. Hold on a sec. Can't hear him. Probably not a bad thing, but... Hold on, let's listen. Is this the latest from them? Latest that they're spinning, yeah.
Brexit without a deal would be a total disaster. Everyone knows that. So we have to do everything to avoid...
Hold on. He's saying... Hold on. He said there, it was cut off. Yeah, it was cut off. He said that a no-deal situation would be a disaster. Everyone knows that. Or that's the first lie, yeah? Because do you know that? Do I know that? No, that's the first lie. I just want to make that clear. And it's not no deal. It's a WTO deal, yeah? It's a WTO deal with a whole bunch of ancillary deals to keep the planes flying so that the French can still take their planes across UK aerospace, for example, to get them to the States and so on and so forth, and to keep the trucks moving and all the rest of it. There is no such thing as a no-deal Brexit. What that Yvette Cooper, whatever her name is, Oliver bloody Letwin Cooper, whatever, they're all the same, aren't they? Is basically try to scupper. But anyway, so this is him carrying on with his spiel.
That's what Donald and myself are trying to do. Till now we have been quite successful. I like the decision we have taken tonight because the end date has been fixed on the 3rd.
Oh, for crying out loud. Hold on.
The 1 of October. I have to leave my job.
Oh, so that's not today anyway. That's the other day. That was the other day when that happened. Okay, well, anyway, I mean, nothing's changed anyway. Brussels will resist any temptations to reopen the Prime Minister's draft EU withdrawal agreement. Guess what? They just want us under their thumb. It's as simple as that. Nothing has changed. Evening Standard, Theresa May urged to quit. This is Osborne's pulpit, isn't it? As PM today amid continued Brexit backlash. I mean, again, it's just nonsense, isn't it? Because she's not going to quit because she's a bloody robot. there for Soros and what have you. She'll just do it and do it and do it until she's, basically killed herself, flogged herself to death if she has to, because that is the mentality of these psychopaths. Look at Blair. Theresa May was urged to announce today she was quitting as Prime Minister as MPs returned to Parliament after the Easter break. Senior Conservative MP Nigel Evans, Joint Secretary of the 1922 Committee of Backbench MPs, led the charge against Mrs May as fresh Tory infighting over the delay to Brexit erupted. I would be delighted if she announced today her resignation and we could then have an orderly election to choose a new leader of the Conservative Party, he told BBC Radio 4's Today programme this morning, speaking in a personal capacity. Well, Joint Secretary of the 1922 Committee, that's actually a pretty important kind of a character to pipe up with that kind of rhetoric. And so just worth a little mention there. But nothing has happened. Apparently they're in closed session at the moment, and hopefully we'll hear more by the end of the show.
We can't
and I'll
carry
bring it to you.
on going on like this. There has to be some sort of termination to this. We have to deliver.
Yeah, we need some sort of termination. Right. Brexit Live. May and Bercow face no confidence votes. This is more take from the Express. Tories demand Brexiteer takeover. A vote of no confidence has been tabled in Speaker of the House of Commons, John Bercow, with MPs accusing him of not being impartial during the Brexit process. What, the bollocks to Brexit guy, yeah? The guy who drives into the Commons car park with a sticker on his windscreen or whatever, hanging from his mirror saying, bollocks to Brexit. Yeah, he's impartial, isn't he? Exactly what we expect in a great democracy like the UK. An impartial speaker like John Billy Bollocks Bercow. Furious Conservative MP Crispin Blunt tabled the motion after writing to all MPs asking for support, adding he would not publish the names of backers unless they hit 3 figures in order not to expose them to retribution by the Speaker. Because he's a bully, isn't he? He bullies women, he's a misogynist. Oh yeah, we know all of these things. He's in power because the bloody Blairites, yeah, and they're Blairites on both sides of that Commons, in the Tories and in Labour, running both parties effectively, running the Commons effectively, and the Lords, by the way. Yes, because basically they want him there, irrespective, as long as they can keep him in the EU. For crying out loud, we know that what Tim Fortescue said about depraved MPs being blackmailed to take us into the EEC in the first place. Of course they will stand by a creature like John Bercow, who doesn't give a damn about democracy as long as they can keep us in there. But at least there has been a motion of no confidence brought forward by Crispin Blunt, which doubtless will be voted down considerably. He should have left, Piers. He said he would leave last year, and then he said he would leave straight after, about now, June, I think it is. But he almost certainly will try and cling on in there, won't he? Because he is the Remoron's main man.
Yes. Absolutely. I mean, the whole of Parliament is being geared towards keeping us in the EU. They're all bought and paid for. They are, they're all going to end up on massive EU pensions once. What people don't seem to realise is, is that there will be no party politics in the UK if they get what they want. It's an interesting scenario because May's spending all this money to take us into the European elections, and yet we're supposed to be leaving. And yet, the European elections are probably going to be dominated by Nigel Farage and the Brexit Party, or at least a huge contingent of MEPs are now going to be anti-EU. So there's sort of this ongoing catch-22 situation remains. But there's no question our British Parliament has been completely compromised. Democracy no longer exists, and they will do everything in their power to keep us in. So it's going to be interesting to see that if May's absolutely atrocious, traitorous, deal goes to a fourth vote, whether or not there'll be a dramatic change in terms of seeing it through, which will probably mean that we won't. I don't know. There's probably a caveat. I wouldn't be surprised in that deal of hers. Well, there is. we don't end up with any. We don't have any voting rights at all, do we? For the first few months of it.
Right. If we lose the veto,
an item. So if they vote for that, then we won't have. We'll be basically having to fork out whatever they suggest we have to, and we'll have absolutely no say over it whatsoever. So I can't.
That's right. If they get a veto under what she wants to agree, it's basically like you giving a neighbor who has been bullying you for years and telling you, extracting tax and all the rest of it, telling you how to live, with the majority of your laws being decreed by them, for example, your neighbor telling you how to live, giving them the key to your house and saying, look, you keep the key, come in when you like, if you want to take a bit of furniture, that's fine. And we don't need a veto or anything like that. We'll just go along with whatever you say. And then give us the key back when you're ready. When you're ready, give us the key back. Or giving a business competitor the keys to your safe and the company books and saying, look, just give it all back when you're ready. That's fine.
When you feel like it.
It's just moronic. Moronic.
Absolutely. I mean, it's worse than the current membership that we have.
Yeah,
so
easily.
It's just extraordinary, which is obviously, partly it makes me think that it's been deliberately designed that way so that people, obviously, it's so appalling. I mean, I still think what they're going to try and do, they don't want to see this whitewash in the European parliamentary elections. They don't want to see Nigel Farage run riot all over them and massacre any kind of credibility. Well, they don't have any credibility left, do they? Let's face it. I mean, the Tories are. I will never, ever. I haven't voted Tory for a long time, but I think I might have made the mistake of voting Tory once, many, many years ago. But everything they've done I find utterly repulsive, and I really will, just as a matter of principle, never ever vote Tory ever again. I don't actually think anybody should ever vote Lib Lab Com ever again. We've got to fundamentally change the political system in this country. If we don't leave now, it's over. That's what people have got to realise. We will be fully subsumed by a federal Europe. Parliament, which they're spending hundreds of millions of pounds on doing up, will become Jean-Claude Juncker's a wine cellar. I mean, it is that bad. We are fighting for our very survival here. If we do not, all these bought and paid for, bribed and politicians know that this is what's coming. They know that if they vote to see Brexit out, get rid of it, do away with it, make it not happen, they will be pensioned off and they will be rich beyond their wildest dreams for the rest of their lives. They've been told there is no other solution, that Europe has to be a combined force that includes the UK, a federal Europe. This is it. This is our last chance saloon. And if you stick voting for what you've always voted for all your life, then it's over. You might as well kiss goodbye to British politics, because we won't make any of our own laws. We won't make any of our own decisions. We will be completely subsumed by Brussels. We will basically just be a sector whatever it is in the federal European superstate. So this is it. What people really have to soberly understand is this is your last chance to retain any kind of democracy in this country. This really, I mean, I love it. I love watching the press.
So hold on a sec. Hold on, Piers. Hold on. Okay, let me just go through the pertinent stories regarding that, and then we'll discuss what will hopefully happen, and what may happen, and let's have that debate. In Breitbart, they're talking about a watershed moment for democracy. Brexit Party candidates include decorated veteran and nurse. Nigel Farage sent another strong message to establishment Labour and Conservatives today as his new Brexit Party unveiled their latest candidates for the European elections, including a nurse, a veteran, and a businessman. Mr. Farage spoke at the event, during which 5 new MEP candidates were announced, saying how much the Brexit Party has grown since its launch on Friday, April the 12th. The party now reports having over 67,000 registered supporters, with a registration fee of 25 quid a head. meaning the party may now be holding as much as £1.5 million in membership subscriptions alone. And if you bear in mind that UKIP, before Batten took over, after it was decimated in the Henry Bolton debacle days, they had a debt of about 200,000. And so if the Brexit Party's got 1.5 million, that's a lot of money. The Brexit leader went on to say how he was happy that the party was squeezing Conservative votes, but also that they would be focusing on Labour heartlands in the Midlands, the North, and in South Wales. He spoke of the 5 million Labour Leave voters who had been abandoned by the party. Amongst the new candidates announced was Claire Fox, a former Marxist and Revolutionary Communist Party member and free speech campaigner, who spoke of Labour's sneering and contempt for those supporters who voted to leave the EU. And also the next candidate announced was wildlife conservationist and war hero James Glancy, who, it was claimed by newspaper The Daily Mail after the event, served in the Special Boat Service, the Naval Special Forces branch equivalent to the better-known SAS. Mr. Glancy served 3 tours of Afghanistan and was awarded this conspicuous Gallantry Cross, receiving the medal from Queen Elizabeth II, so presumably being a slightly better caliber of politician, potentially, than the likes of, I don't know, Diane Abbott or pretty much any of the Brexit secretaries we've had. So anyway, a third candidate announced was Matthew Patton, a noted charity director, who told
what
the crowd...
What was Diane Abbott drinking on the tube the other day? It was a can of mojito.
Yeah, from M&S. And apparently they've run out of mojito at M&S now because she set off a trend or something. Now everybody's drinking it on the... Anyway, that's London for you. Guido's take on it is...
I fix at lunchtime.
Just Guido's take on this. Guido's take on this. Tory MPs are supporting the Brexit Party. And the 1922 rule change is being rumoured. That's another story going on today. Will they make it possible for there to be another no confidence vote or a confidence vote in the PM? Something that's going on right now. Maybe we'll have some news on that in a minute. I don't know. Hopefully so. Anyway, Guido, Tory MP supporting the Brexit Party. Tory MP Lucy Allen is publicly recommending candidates for the rival Brexit Party. Andrea Jenkins has, Guido hears, told local activists she too will be supporting the Brexit Party. It's just incredible, isn't it? Absolutely incredible, Piers. There is a real threat. Apparently, whatever you think of Farage, the bottom line is that the Brexit Party is looking very, very strong. And the Tories must be really very concerned, and presumably Labour should be as well.
Absolutely. I mean, we are seeing an unprecedented rebellion on our hands now, but trying to oust Theresa May will be extremely difficult because I do believe she's, fully signed up deep state, employee, as is Merkel and Macron. They're all basically paid activists or, paid operatives of the same deep state agenda. And she will not leave. She was put in power by deep state to make sure Brexit never happened. And she will not leave until she has seen that through. And she will literally have to be dragged out of number 10, kicking and screaming. They'll have to put her in a straitjacket and march her into a white van. It'll be that bad. I mean, she will not go, no matter what they throw at her, unless they can find some legal way of kicking her out. She will not leave. She will not. They're trying to force her to give a leaving date. Well, she may leave. She may give a leaving date, but then she might change her mind. She changes her mind about everything. She's a lying witch, and I cannot see her leaving unless she's achieved her end result, which is making sure Brexit doesn't happen. So it'll either be getting her terrible deal through Parliament or revoking Article 50 altogether. But they've been given a deadline of the end of October now. So if we're going to stay in the EU, we should be part of the European elections. But obviously this is a huge problem because there's a whole load of anti-European sentiment and MEPs that will ultimately be against the organisation. It's so complicated and difficult, but I can't see how it's going to play out. All I know for sure is that Theresa May's programming is designed that she will not leave office until she's seen the job through, which is thwarting Brexit, making sure it doesn't happen. That's what her handlers in deep state have programmed her for. So she will not leave. She will fight it till her last dying breath. Unless they can find some legal recourse to, or actually, I don't know. One thing you haven't mentioned tonight is this court case. Has that got any more legal legs? Was our not leaving on the 29th of March illegal? Is that going to go anywhere, or as the Viscount suggested the other night, are all the High Court judges bought and paid for too? Are they all signed up members of this federal European super state model? I think they probably are. Gina Miller was given legal precedent.
Piers, if you're going to use that phone, can you please put it in such a way that I don't just see the side of your ear? But good man, thank you.
Sorry.
It's all right. No, it's okay. You got a very good looking ear, but that's right. That's Robin Tilbrook's case that you're talking about, suing the government over what he cites as being their illegal extension of Article 50. And the Viscount is Viscount St David's. It was on the show last week with old Piers actually and me. So yes, tell me, do you think it would be any different if they managed to dislodge Theresa May, and bearing in mind that the grassroots, the people delivering the leaflets or refusing to, which is happening a lot. One local constituency apparently has refused to take part in the EU elections for the Tory party any way at all. They're refusing to do anything because they're saying we should have left. In other words, do you think it would be any different if they managed to dislodge this nightmare, this duplicitous bitch, frankly? Would it be any different with Boris, who is leading the field despite everybody briefing against him and trying to, reduce his lead, evaporate his lead? He is still leading the field by a long chalk over what looked like a bunch of,
He's the best of a bad batch, Tory-wise. But the problem we've got is that I think the Tories are prepared to sacrifice the Conservative Party to achieve this higher agenda. I mean, I can't remember who it was I heard saying it, but somebody had said they'd spoken to a senior Tory politician about, the end of the potential end of the Conservative Party, and his answer was tough, which sums up kind of what the philosophy, underlying philosophy is. They are prepared.
That was Dominic Grieve, I think, who said that.
Well, maybe, but there are, the majority, the larger contingent of Remain Tory MPs are prepared to sacrifice their own party to make sure that we are subsumed into a federal European superstate. They think that this is the only workable model going forward into the world that we live in now. And climate change plays into this recipe. They need to develop a method of control.
Do you think that that's a distraction? Do you think that this climate extinction thing, or whatever it's called, is a distraction that's been funded by, I don't know, Soros or what?
Well, no, I think it's all part of underlying their desire to federalize and centralize power. They're going to say, look.
Yeah, but why are they piping up now? Why are they piping up now? It's almost like an enormous, convenient distraction, no? I mean, we're at the verge of losing our democracy, and people are concerned about the climate, which would be administered by people that we cannot vote for. I mean, come on, gain a brain. If you can't vote for the people, and then say, by the way, we want you to sort out the climate. If you can't vote for the people, if you don't know who's going to be in charge, everything else is immaterial. You've got to be able to control.
They're using people like Greta Thunberg, this little Scandinavian chick. I mean, I like her. She her heart's in the right place. She's a quixotic young creature who believes that the world's coming to an end. I mean, there's no doubt climate change is happening. The world is changing, and CO2 levels are affecting, the balance of nature. There's no question. But I do believe the figures are being grossly exaggerated, and it's just being used as another excuse to bring in a draconian level of control, which is ultimately what they want to try to do. It's all to tie in with, to do with population
The
control.
bottom line is if they were serious about it, they would not trade with China until China put the standards in place. No? I mean, it's as simple as that. They're not serious.
They've had data for absolutely decades. The corporations that run this planet, and I include the various major faiths when I make that statement, I see the major faiths as corporations using the same devious strategies as major corporations. They have had this data for decades, and they have chosen to ignore it in the name of profit because there are agendas in play, seriously complex agendas that almost defy comprehension that we just haven't been told about. And it all plays into the recipe of how do we save mankind? People are beginning to rebel against, majorly rebel against this European model. What do we need to throw into the recipe in order to try and subjugate and placate people? Let's throw global warming into the recipe. Oh my God, there's David Attenborough, the doyen on the BBC, saying the world will explode in 10 years if you don't all, bow down and subjugate to us and give away all your freedoms and comply to our exact recipe and have a chip put in your hand and be. It's basically the real life Hunger Games. They've played this card because of all the unrest in Europe. There's a rise of anti-European sentiment going on. So what do they need to do? They need to throw a chill bone into everybody. They need to scare the shit out of everybody. So they're throwing global warming into the recipe. They've had this data for decades. They've ignored it. It's not the general populace that are causing all this pollution. It's corporations. They're the ones that are profiting from all of this. And they are now they're now blaming us and saying we will have to radically change our lives and bow down and let this sort of centralization of power and federalization of Europe happen because it's the only way we can survive, which is just not true. They are using anything and everything, all means possible, in order to scare us into submission, and that's what's going on.
Okay, let's take a few comments. Let's see what folks have got to say. Debbie Shaw, did I ever mention that I'm a bit of a maverick? I actually belong to two parties, UKIP and DVP, the Democrats and Veterans Party. One is for now to clean the swamp, and one is for afterwards to ensure we keep the swamp clean for a few terms to secure our nation against another bid like this one. Leigh Hollands, will they rig the elections out of desperation? Nico Schofield, all they care about is the EU gravy train. Mo Evia Abozia says David Attenborough has bought into the scaremongering. I interviewed him once, and I'll tell you what, he scared me. Leah Lewis, I interviewed his brother, Dickie, too, and he was great. He was awesome. He was really good fun. A real character he was. Nico Schofield, they are overturning an election, so rigging one is nothing to them. I would expect it. Wendy Miller, notice how Julian Assange court hearing is on May the 2nd. When people won't be voting, they will be out protesting. Is that the case, Wendy? I didn't know that. Thank you. Debbie Shaw, they rigged the referendum. We won by more than 52%. But yes, I have been at counts, and the parties in power are the people in charge. And I have seen naughty things going on, reported it with the police, asking the organisers if anything was wrong. Christopher Mitchell says...
What people have to understand is like when they watch Marvel films and they see Hydra, or they watch James Bond and they see Spectre, that's what deep state is. What those films are actually trying to do is tell you what's actually going on, but painting it as fiction. It's this occult law.
Well, The Matrix is a classic, isn't it? Which we were talking about a bit last week.
There's lots of quotable lines in The Matrix to sort of describe the way the world works. I mean, it's not a computer simulation, but like the likes of Ike sort of proclaim. But we're going to get
no idea, but that's pretty deep.
At tangent now,
go on.
But at the end of the day, there is a control mechanism in play, and what we're fed. I mean, really, realistically speaking, the foundation and bedrock of our entire mental landscape is based on a lot of lies. The ancient past is a lie. The pyramids weren't built by the Egyptian pharaohs. They were built, thousands of years prior to that. And they had technology that was far in advance of anything that we even have today. So
So we've been thoroughly lied to about everything, and so we are basing all our arguments and animosities on lies. They have literally created a false world, a false reality for us that we all have become so completely reliant and absorbed in that we literally can't see the wood through the trees. We cannot. It's quite extraordinary how much lying has gone on an industrial scale for decades. And I do believe that they have suppressed a lot of technology that could transform this world for the better, but they won't give it to us, because if they do, it will allow us to exist autonomously outside their remit of control, and therefore they won't give it to us. So they'd rather try and take our freedoms and liberties away from us and control us and chip us and turn us into a sort of Hunger Games kind of world where the elite all live in these glittering cities in extremely modern and advanced, technologically advanced apartments. You're beginning to see it happen in London and other cities all around the world, where central London now is really the demographics have completely changed in the last 10 years, because the only people that can afford to buy these apartments are people, are multimillionaire foreign investors, so they're turning central London into a playground.
Unless they're given a place for free, a migrant or whatever, which seems to be happening quite a lot as well. Just saying. Anyway, Tanis Pullen, the tree huggers needs to go to China, Brazil, India, etc. See how long their protest lasts there. Gene GDL says the 7 stages of multiculturalism. They put their plan out there. They are in the final stages. Jamie Mitchell, we only industrialized 70 years ago out of thousands offers of years of the planet's history. That is a slither of time. The Steel Weasel says climate warriors, super glue in one hand, iPhone in the other. A bunch of consumer junkies, all bogus. I think, who was it, flew in on a jet to get to the demonstration and didn't seem to realize the irony of it. Helen Smith, the London mayor's election was rigged too. Tanis Pullen, dead right, the Steel Weasel, and a plastic pink boat. And Stav Woodcutter says the so-called deep state contains hundreds of thousands of individuals, big old swamp to clean.
It really is.
This is the pyramid, isn't it, Piers? And mainly Jobsworths. They just want their pension. It's kind of understandable, largely, but
as we've said before on your show many times, you cannot attain high office without being compromised or controlled in some kind of way. They will not give the key positions in any government, including the UK, those positions of authority unless they're compromised or controlled, and that counts for all of them. This overriding agenda has been in play for decades, and they have orchestrated in such a way that they have complete control. And this is what we're up against. I mean, the only way we could fight this is if we recognize it and realize that I mean, we're so programmed to read the papers and watch the news, and then we buy it. They employ crafty, clever journalists, and presenters that paint pictures that seem credible and believable. But what we're being presented is propaganda on an industrial scale, and we're trying to base all our considerations and on falsities. What we've got to do is try and step outside the matrix. We do literally have to red pill ourselves and be Neo. We've all got to become Neo. We've got to be lying on that bench having our muscles regenerated, because we've all become blobs because of the inactivity due to all the lies that we've been told, and we've got to become we've got to literally kind of step outside it all and start to believe, basically start from scratch and start. Are you there? Sorry, my phone. No. My phone is beginning to die. I'm just going to plug it in so I don't get cut off.
So, okay. So tell me, do you think, because we've got 2 key elections going on in the UK, the locals and the EU elections, which they will desperately try for us not to be involved in the EU elections, I suspect. But they ultimately will have no choice because of EU law and because the EU cannot realistically keep us in the EU without at least allowing us to have MEPs. There's a certain amount of autocracy they cannot yet be seen to be stooping to, I would have thought. However, these two elections are very, very clearly, very significant politically. It does look as though the Tories will be trounced at both, and Labour very possibly as well at both. Do you not think that that sends a message that, come on, the UK public has had enough? Parliament cannot be riding roughshod over democracy in the way that they have. They have to be seen, finally, to actually, not just be seen, but actually to be representing their constituencies. Might that not be the takeout of the local elections and the EU elections?
No, because you've got to. A lot of them have been secretly briefed on the overriding agenda, and the overriding agenda is federal Europe, and they've been told in meetings, and they've had it all spelled out.
They know their political parties will basically. They're finished. They are finished. They're voting for Christmas. Go on. Okay, sorry. Please carry on.
In the UK, they're preparing themselves for that. They've resolved themselves to that. It's not about party politics any longer. It's about taking the world in a completely new direction. You've had, as we.
So you're saying they're playing for time. They're playing for time.
Posted an article the other day saying that capitalism, the only way we can survive the coming climate crisis is if we do away with capitalism altogether. And that is a very sobering thing to write. That is saying that we have to completely and radically change our current
There's nothing wrong with capitalism. It's fascism that's the problem.
Well, they're bringing in, a kind of fascist, socialist, liberal. It's not going to be that. It's going to be the Hunger Games. That's what they want. They want create a federal superstate under centralized control. They want us all chipped. We won't have any cash or.
I don't know what's socialist about it. It's theft. Yeah. There's no true socialism there. There is very true fascism, i.e., businesses in cahoots colluding with politicians. That is fascism. That's what it is. That's all it is. There's no socialism there. There's theft. They're stealing from Peter to pay Paul, to bribe Paul.
Well, they believe that the only way, as I've said, I do believe there are technologies that could transform this world for the better, but they won't give them to us. So let's write that off. They will not give them to us because that will enable us to autonomously exist outside their remit of control. They don't want that. They want to retain their grip of control over us. So they will carry on down this current paradigm. And the only way they can see the world being able to survive is through complete tyrannical control. They believe that they need to save us from ourselves. That's what they believe, and that is what their remit is. And this is why we have a demented prime minister who seems to behave like some insane person.
How can they? Let's assume that there's a huge backlash at the polls, as expected. In the course of these two very important elections coming up, the local elections, highly symbolic, and the EU elections, basically the opportunity to piss from the inside of the tent in, which they will not like at all. Aside from, again, the symbolism of, look at these. There are no Tory Remainer. They're all Remainers, aren't they? The Tory MEPs. They're all Remorons. Presumably, it will all be Brexit Party stroke UKIP that will be elected in there. And so, given that, how can they then justify standing up on, telly or whatever, on the BBC, talking to people like that, Gavin Esler, who today has been announced as a candidate for the Chuck Up Party, the Cuck or whatever it's called, the Cock Party, Change UK with Chucker, whatever, Blairite idiot face. Gavin Esler, BBC Newsman. No surprise. Well, anyway, they're not going to make it, are they? They're not going to make it. It's going to be an avalanche of Brexit MEPs from the UK, and it's going to be an avalanche of Brexiteers in the local elections where there is a Brexiteer candidate, because unfortunately in many elections in Scotland and Wales, there aren't any elections anyway, I don't think, at all. In other areas of the country, in many constituencies, as we've heard on this show from people calling in, they don't have a UKIP or a Brexit Party candidate. The Brexit Party aren't running in the local elections at all. They're just the EU elections at the moment. But anyway, the bottom line is that, Piers, how can they stand up on TV? People like Anna Soubry even, but maybe more moderate politicians, more moderate remorons, if you like. How can they reasonably stand up on television and say we are doing the best for the country if there is a massive backlash in these two polls?
They know that they face a possible massive backlash, but such is the fanaticism and radicalization of our political class that they are literally prepared to suffer anything, including our Prime Minister. She will literally, as we've already pointed out, they will literally have to.
This is what we're going to find out now.
Kicking and screaming. If she has not achieved her agenda, which is keeping us locked inside the EU, if she has not achieved that agenda by the time they try to oust her, she will not leave. She will literally cling on to the fucking French, the door frame of number 10. They will have to prise her fingers from the door. She is that insane. And so's Anna Soubry. She is insane. They're all. But I know people who come from the same philosophy, this same mindset. They believe wholeheartedly in the ideology that the European Union paint. They believe it's all a big kumbaya, let's hold hands and be lovely to each other. It's not. It's exactly the same philosophy that Nazis tried to introduce through 2 world wars by force. Now they're using just a different methodology. It's called finance and subterfuge, and everybody's fallen. So many people have fallen for it, hook, line, and sinker. They believe that that there's genuine remorse in play, that people are genuinely trying to make right the errors of the past. Nonsense. They're not. This is World War III by subterfuge, and if people can't see that and don't realise that, then I'm afraid we're screwed. I still believe that our ability to leave will be extraordinarily difficult. I'm half expecting some sort of cooked up resolution to occur prior to our having to stand in the European parliamentary elections. I mean, this is what Juncker and all his pals in the European Parliament are saying. We need a resolution prior to the UK, voting and taking part in the European elections. So I wouldn't be surprised if all the traitors in Parliament will manage to pull something out of their asses before the European elections happen. That's my greatest fear, is that whatever compromises they haven't accepted up until this point will suddenly become a sobering reality for them, because they'll realise that's the only way they can see through their objective to keep us in the EU. If that does happen, I do expect there to be a civil war in this country. There will be, major riots, and this is something that they are obviously aware of and concerned about. I honestly can't call it.
They are running out of road, aren't they? I mean, we really now are going to see the true motivations of these people. If off the back of 2 major elections for our times, hugely symbolic. Local elections, never was there a more symbolic, more important local election than the one coming up. And the EU election as well, if we're actually allowed to take place. We are about to find out the truth. I want to say a big cheers to my old buddy Piers Garnham. God bless you, Piers. Thank you. And Theresa May said, go away and reflect over Easter. I want you to go home and reflect over Easter, she said.
Theresa May.
Well, I did, I've been reflecting over the last few years or whatnot. And you can bugger off! Unbelievable woman. What a creature. She really is the creature from the Blue Lagoon. We have to get rid of Lib Lab Con. We have to exterminate the venom that they are.
All controlled nonsense.
Damn right, Piers. All controlled nonsense. Don't give a damn about us. So from that point of view, Farage is absolutely right. And I don't know whether you trust Farage or Batten or what. The bottom line is you gotta vote for Brexit parties. And yes, you have to vote for Brexit parties. Don't waste your vote. Kick it in Lib Lab Con's nuts. The local elections are a big opportunity. We mustn't waste them, people. And the EU elections. We haven't got Brexit yet, but that's no reason to stop, trying, huh? But crying out loud, don't give up. Okay, right, enough of a rant. This has been Daily Brexit. I'm Olly Connelly. That was Piers Garnham with me. Back tomorrow, 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
Cheers, Piers. God bless you, man. I'm going to have a glass of wine. Whoa, tell you I need it. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. God bless you. Happy St. George's Day. Come on, finish. Always such a slow fade. I got to speed up that fade.